Welcome to Inspired School Marketers' inaugural webinar. For those of you who don't know, Inspired is a free online professional development resource and community for people involved in K-12 school marketing communications. My name is LIZA Fisher-Norman. I'm Inspired's master electrician, and along with my partner Rob Norman, Inspired's best boy, we make sparks that we hope will generate new ideas for professionals in enrollment, development, alumni relations, and other offices at schools in the US and abroad. When I'm wearing my other hat, I'm the principal of Turnaround Marketing Communications, a branding and marketing firm that specializes in independent schools, celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and I don't know how that happened. Much of the work I do with schools involves the use of photography. Knowing how critical photography is to a school's brand and my personal love of photography, I knew I wanted Inspired's first webinar to be on this topic. This is part one of a three-part webinar that we hope will save your school time and money and to help make your job easier. So join us for the other two parts of the webinar. We all know that pictures say 1,000 words, and I'm here to say, much to the dismay of copywriters I work with, that not everyone reads all the copy, but everyone looks at all the images. So your images had better be good, tell the story you want to tell, and be brand-centric. As I'm talking now, you'll see some stats overprinting Michael's photos about the importance and effectiveness of images in school Marcom, and Marcom in general, actually. Photography's impact was strong when print ruled the world, and it's still critically important in a digital world. Think about your large, beautiful homepage images, your social media headers, Instagram and Facebook. Even as video rises in popularity and prevalence, photography still packs a punch. Photography is extremely powerful in marketing and communications. Photography elicits emotion quickly, and we know that emotions play a big role in enrollment for parents and students, contributors by donors, and pride of affiliation for alumni. Photography reaches visual learners in ways that copy can't. Photography demonstrates your brand at a fast glance. Are your students in uniform? Can they wear their own hair whatever way they want to? Is your campus sprawling and ivy covered or in the heart of a city? It tells all of this very quickly. In this webinar, where it was fitting, we show the work of schools who are current members of Inspired, and we chose examples from Inspired's portfolio. We also show the work we found on the web when we did research for this webinar. We deliberately kept most examples from K-12 and tried not to show anything from higher ed, but we do show one thing, I think. And even though we know wonderful work happens at higher ed, when a photographer wasn't named in a piece, we emailed the school and asked the for the photographer's name so we could give proper credit. You may see a few photographer unknowns if we couldn't connect with the school. While this webinar is not live, we asked for questions from school marketers on the Inspired Facebook page, forum, Twitter, and LinkedIn groups. I'll ask them at the appropriate time, and look at the show notes for more details. With that, I'd like to introduce my co-presenter, Michael Branscom. Michael Branscom is a Philadelphia-based photographer, and we've worked together for the benefit of our schools for over a decade. We're like an old married couple. We know each other well and know exactly what each other wants and needs to make our school clients look their best and boost their brand. This is one of the many benefits of having a great long-term relationship with a photographer, which we'll discuss more later. Michael's been a professional photographer for 20 years and began shooting stills for schools and higher ed in 2002 and shooting film in 2013. The fact that he was a journalism major in college greatly contributes to his incredible photojournalistic style and his ability to capture campus moments perfectly and unobtrusively. Michael's the father of 3 children, and his wife taught at independent schools, so children, teachers, and independent schools are all part of his personal as well as his professional life. Coincidentally, Michael's daughter and my daughter both took our respective portraits here, and we thought that was really interesting. Michael.
Hello, it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking about photography with your audience.
Great. So the first thing we want to talk to you about is maximizing, when we're talking about maximizing your relationship with your photographer, is end use. Ask yourself, how am I going to use these photos? What kind of image do I want to project for my school? How do I want them to motivate the viewer? Am I going to use them for marketing? In other words, external audiences, communications, internal audiences, or documentation of events? By asking yourself what the end use is, you'll be able to determine your strategy in selecting a photographer, planning the shoot, and communicating your expectations to the photographer. So let's talk about different kinds of end uses and photography. Enrollment. What you want people to do is critical to the end use. So what you want for enrollment photography is immersive, experiential images that draw prospective families in. What do you want them to do? You want them to say, I love what I'm seeing and I want to see more of it, so let's visit the campus, right? That's kind of what you all want them to do. Most schools hire and budget for a professional photographer for the enrollment marketing. That's where the photography starts, with enrollment, usually. And is that the primary reason you're hired, Michael?
Yeah, I would say if I could pick, the one reason, it would probably be, the main reason would be enrollment. Most of the academic photography I do for independent schools is for VIEWBOOKS. And then, as you'll see as in this webinar, just because the main intention of having me out is for one thing, say a VIEWBOOK, the pictures can be used, have all sorts of end uses, and we'll talk more and more about that as we go through this.
Right, okay. So let's look at a few enrollment examples to see the differences in shots.
All right, well, here's an example of a front cover on the left and the back cover of a VIEWBOOK. And the reason why we chose this example is I like the mix, the way they kind of mixed up the types of shots. So you have a wide shot of the main building on the cover, and then on the inside, on the back cover, we have a tight shot of pre-K kids. And in both cases, there's nice amount of room and sort of natural room for the placement of copy. And of the title of the VIEWBOOK and the school. So that's important to think about when you're shooting, or even later on, there's ways of working it in. Shallow depth of field in the photograph on the right allows, which means the background's blurry, allows for a natural placement of type over the picture. Mm-hmm. And sometimes pictures can look staged, but they're not. Like the one in the back cover of the kids in pre-K might look staged, but actually it's a real moment. So it doesn't mean that you can't stage a photo for a cover and stage kids. And what we're going to look at some other examples where we've done that. So this is a cover for Germantown French School. The VIEWBOOK cover is actually on the left, and then there's a spread from the inside on the right. And Liza and I both really like this. One thing we really liked that stood out for me is the picture of the girl in the creek here, and how it's very worthy of being a full page. I mean, you want to showcase the photos as full pages whenever you can, if the photo is actually, I think, good enough to warrant that. So in this case, we really think it is. And the nice thing about it is it ties in to the copy, Take Me to Your Leaders. It works very well. And we're not sure if that was written because the photograph said that, or if the photograph was taken with the copy in mind. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that it works. So.
Yep. And it really does work. It's a gorgeous image.
Yeah. So here's a VIEWBOOK for Ridley College in Canada. And
by the way, college in Canada means K-12, or it doesn't mean college.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have a message-focused cover. So the cover's on the left, the orange, engaged Ridley. So that's very much message-centered. Photo is not the dominant element on that. And then inside you have this 2 full-page real bold approach. and with, copy over it very nicely. Just really works. It's nice to have, some strong horizontal photos to work with to be able to go across 2 pages like this.
Yeah, and we had a question on our Facebook page where Sally Keidel of Montgomery School asked, I've been through many shoots when at the end we don't have enough photos shot for the layout, like the website. What's the solution? Well, the solution is to ask your photographer to shoot both horizontals and verticals for each situation they're shooting. This is really hard for photographers to remember. Sometimes they get in the rut in one orientation, or they're just in the moment and they forget. So it's helpful if the person who's accompanying the photographer on the shoot reminds them, horizontal and vertical, horizontal and vertical.
Right.
We'll talk more. We'll talk more about accompanying the photographer on the shoot in part 3, scheduling the shoot. But yeah, what were you going to say, Michael? Sorry.
Oh no, it might fit better for a future webinar, but a lot of times it's just a matter of when you're shooting to just shoot wider than you think you're going to need, because you can always crop in. So, and in a lot of cases, you can make a horizontal into a vertical that way, right. Especially with the resolution of cameras the way they are now. You can get away with shooting wider and still having enough detail to work with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when talking about end use and determining strategy, the cover is one of the most difficult aspects of the ViewBook creation. It's just can be a really big bear. If you're a K-12 school, what age kids do you put on the cover? If you grab one from lower school, middle school, and upper school and pose them together, well, it frequently looks posed and a bit stilted. Sometimes this works, like Michael's Newtown Friends school shot on the left, but more often than not, it doesn't. And the reason the Newtown Friends one works better is because the age of the kids is closer together, because it's a K-8. But when you get to a K-12 and you've got really little kids and 18-year-olds who look like they're going to college, who are going to college, it's a tougher combination.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think works successfully well with Newtown Friends, because the age range is only, a year or 2 apart amongst these kids. And what we did for this, the reason why we're showing these 2 examples, the one on the left is a cover that we thought about and scouted and really planned ahead of time. So we knew exactly where the copy was going to be. We knew how much space that was going to take up. I knew what the light was going to look like on the wall at that time of day. So we really thought about it. We had all the kids lined up. We actually shot it in the middle of the summer. And then the one on the right was not planned. It was a picture that we decided later on to use as the cover. And so which is nice. It's great to be able to get those grabbers when you're on a shoot and be able to be able to use them for such a grand purpose, I guess. Mm-hmm. But either way, they're 2 different approaches that we think in the end work well.
Yeah, and another strategy for cover is using a photo of an iconic campus building or an architectural detail. But basically what we're trying to say is try to plan ahead for the cover, or you might find yourself scrambling at the last minute and trying to grab for one that you want but didn't plan for. So here's another ViewBook, right, Michael?
Yeah, so here's Newark Academy's ViewBook. And there's a couple things that are worth noting here. They were both decided later to be ViewBook covers, like I talked about in the previous example from the Gal School. So when I was shooting the one on the left, I didn't know that was going to be a cover, but I think it works really well. You can't see the kids' faces very well, which actually I think that
works well. I think, yeah,
it can be an asset. Yeah, you're not emphasizing certain kids on the cover. Sometimes that's fine, but sometimes it's nice to just have it be more general. And then the one on the right was shot, sort of purposely blurry and that kind of thing. So again, we're not emphasizing anyone in particular. And then Liza, why don't you just talk about how this ViewBook is different than others?
Mm-hmm. This ViewBook, it looks a little odd because it looks like it has 2 covers, and in fact it does. It uses a flip technique where the front of the book is quote unquote for the parents, but also some students will read it, and the back of the book, when you turn it upside down, is for the students. So it's a great great economical way to do 2 books in one. But they both use the unidentifiable route, which is a great way to do it. It's also, the advantage of using an unidentifiable photo is also because some schools have a lot of difficulty if somebody leaves the school and they say, well, now this kid's on the cover and they're already gone. So that this solves that problem pretty easily. So continuing with Newark, this is their online interactive view book, which we just wrote a by example feature story about for a case study on Inspired's website, so please go read that. And this interactive view book is a rising trend in enrollment marketing. Here they've used black and white photography to stand out of the crowd and establish a unique visual identity, which it certainly does. It helps that the school's colors are black and white as well. So, I mean, excuse me, black and red. So that really plays into it really effectively for them. If your end use strategy is to use black and white photography, the photographer should still shoot in color and convert to black and white so that you can use the quote unquote outtakes for other purposes.
Here are some search pieces for 2 different schools. Here's St. James School and Lawrenceville School. And these search pieces are briefer, often smaller versions of the ViewBook itself. So sometimes they look a lot like the ViewBook in design, and some of the same pictures might even be used, but they're kind of condensed versions.
Yeah, they're used for when you don't want to hand out the whole full-size ViewBook, which is frequently too expensive and too large and heavy to lug around or mail. So they're good for school fairs, direct mail, feeder schools, realtors. The end use is usually driven by what was determined by the ViewBook. So with the exception of the cover for this, the images will follow suit as well. So it's really echoing the ViewBook.
And here's a search piece for Montclair Kimberly Academy. And there's a couple things worth noting here. The one on the right that we did, we had some time scheduled in the day, and we'll talk about scheduling a shoot in a future webinar, but one thing that's nice is to be able to have that time to plan. So we had some time to plan out what we wanted to do before all the students got there. And so we were able to create a picture that purposely doesn't have any sort of central point of focus. We kind of want the viewer to wander around a little bit, and then we still have, I think, successfully incorporated copy over the picture.
Yeah, and it gives a great sense of place. There are times where if the cover shot isn't working, you can make it work through you through the wonders of Photoshop. The girl on the cover was actually carrying plastic containers of cookies from Whole Foods, and it was changed to a laptop. This is what I call backing into an idea. We'll show you the before in another part of this series, but it really is pretty remarkable. But don't count on that because it can't always be done.
And I mean, Liza fooled me with this one because I saw the picture and I took the picture and I completely forgot that she wasn't holding a laptop. So
Yep. So development photographs. What do you want them to do here? You want them to give money. You want them to give time. You want them to spread great news about the school through word of mouth. You want them to make them marketers for the school. You want them to relive their connection to the school and take some kind of action as a result of that. So here are 2 annual report covers. One is for Collingwood School, and the other is for Ethel Walker. For this end use, you're looking for photos that alumni, parents, and friends of the school can all relate to. Shelley Williams, who's the Associate Director of Advancement at Collingwood School, told me that this boy on the left was the valedictorian for his class, and the shot was taken at the opening day ceremony of his grade 12 year when he was given his grad tie. Look how proud he is in this shot. I mean, and look at all the pins he's earned. It's just a really compelling shot as far as I'm concerned. This is a shot that evokes pride in the school for everyone, as well as a connection through tradition. The wow photo of the building of Ethel Walker on the right does the same thing. Marion Patterson, Director of Development at Ethel Walker, told me that they were in stitches having someone run back and forth inside the building to activate the motion detectors to keep the lights on. And I really have to chuckle thinking about what that was like.
So here's an annual report for Brooks School, and I like the cover. The cover works just, beautifully. But what I really wanted to note was the inside. These annual reports can have a lot of copy in them, a lot of numbers, a lot of lists, and that kind of thing. So it's nice to dress them up a bit with some photos. And so here we have operations and finance, and I think the photograph, might not be directly about that, but it's implies that topic. And it's just a really beautiful picture. It's probably staged, but I don't think it matters. It just, it's art. I like it.
Beautiful. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. This is an annual giving appeal for Montclair Kimberly Academy. The end use here is to raise money, also known as making the annual fund grow. So the images of gardening fit perfectly with this and make for a really winning strategy. Did the words fit the photos or the photos fit the words? I think it was the former, because in this case, the shots were taken for enrollment marketing. But as I said before, every department uses them, and this is just a great combination of imagery and copy, I think.
Here's an annual fund appeal for Germantown Friends School. And I like what they did with mixing photography and with an illustration. So you have, just to explain, I get so the piece is, when you receive it, it's you're looking at the illustration in the upper left, and with that.
So this is a gatefold.
Gatefold, right.
Splits in the middle between the two doors, right?
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. And so you open up the doors and you see what you see below, which is a series of photographs. And then in the back cover is a picture of the school.
At the upper right, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. And what I think is, besides the kind of clever use of illustration and photography together on the cover, is when you open it up, the pictures do the speaking. I mean, you almost don't even need to read, and they have something there, which is important, but the pictures say a lot about the school. It represents the age ranges. There's academics, there's, kids, there's kids outside, there's sort of an alternative learning environment, someone underneath a desk, painting. She's actually painting this Sistine Chapel, like as if she were painting the Sistine ceiling. Cute, yeah. So anyway, I'm sure it was a lot harder to do the Sistine Chapel, but but anyway, it's that idea. It's that idea.
It's cute. So, it's very cute.
Yeah. So this is one of the few, I think, one of the only. There's, I think, maybe
the only. Yeah.
College pieces we're going to highlight today. There might be another one coming up. I can't remember. But this is a case statement for Lafayette College, and this is, this is a nice. I think what's done well here is it's a visually kind of interesting piece, and they're mixing learning shots together with an environment of inside the classroom, outside the classroom. You're seeing teachers actively engaged with the student, and then you're mixing in a couple portraits as well, where the students are looking directly at the camera. So and then the lighting, the contrast, the color balance is all very consistent. I mean, I shot all these, so that's one reason why. But a lot of times, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is you're getting pictures from multiple sources, and one way to unify them is to do that through your post-production treatment of the photographs, and do it that way.
And also photo editing.
Yes.
Yeah, this end use, motivating donors for major gifts, demands that the photos show gravitas and outcomes of an education like this. They're meant to instill confidence in the investor, otherwise known as the donor, that their money will be used wisely and for the betterment of the future of the school and its students. So these images really do that, and they're beautiful, and so they fit well with the end use. This is another case statement, but this time it's for Mercersburg Academy. Much like VIEWBOOK covers for case statements need to appeal to a wide audience, but this time it's probably older and generally for people who have already had a connection to the school. So the cover of the case statement might be similar to one used for a report of gifts, in that it should portray place, tradition, evoke a certain amount of nostalgia. This one was taken from a long distance, and the subject is about the long distance view of the school. So it's a great partnership. Very pretty photograph. This last development piece is a strategic plan for St. Catherine's School. You'll notice that it avoided the cover conundrum by making a solid color cover with graphics and type. But when you first open the spread, you get this fabulous photo of this student joyfully at work and welcoming you into the rest of the piece. When thinking about end use in a strategic plan, the approach is similar to a case statement, forward thinking and securing the future. Magazines. I love magazines.
So here's 3 different covers for 3 different schools. And so you have, I guess there's just obviously different approaches to the covers. One shows a student exuding joy and excitement, the acorn one, and you're not necessarily tying that into any particular story. And then one in the middle is an artistic representation of learning. And then the one on the right is a on-location portrait of an alum, and the story about this person is inside.
Ebola, I think it's about Ebola.
Yeah. And so, but it's just, it's nice to be able to, get when you're doing when you're with your magazine covers, to be able to think about not necessarily representing the story on the cover and doing something that's just representative of the school, that kind of thing, or doing the other approach. I think these all work well.
So this is all about storytelling, right? I mean, this is really what we're doing.
Yeah,
we're telling stories visually. So
yes.
Yep.
So here's 3 covers for the Lawrenceville School and their magazine, Laurentian, their alumni magazine, and what I like about it is they're using photographs from different sources. 2 of these were photographed by me, and one was from someone else. And the nice thing is there's still a consistent style and approach to it, which I think is important. These aren't copy-heavy covers. There's, and the one on the right has just nothing. It's just implying what's going to be inside. So.
Yeah, beautiful. So
Yeah.
that brings up another question we got on Facebook from Sally Keidel again. She wanted to know how you get a consistent look from different photographers when you're using them in one printed piece or on the website. And so we've been touching on that. The answer there is to do great photo selection. You have to channel your inner photo editor to be selective with the images you place near each other or that tell one story. This is particularly true when mixing photography, professional photography, and amateur photography. But Michael also talked about post-production, right, Michael?
Yeah, and just taking that extra step when you have your photos from different sources and you want to put them together in the same story or just in the same publication, to take the extra step of going over the color balance and contrast and consistency of lighting, not lighting, but really just the feel of the photograph, and also working with the highest possible resolution image that you can get a hold of as well is always important. But it's just taking that it's all extra time. But it's, in the end, I think it's really worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an example of an inside portrait. So you saw in the previous slide, this person was on the cover of the Lawrenceville magazine, and this is the inside part of one of the, there was even other photographs that accompany the story, but this is the main one inside when you get to the article. And it's really nice to be able to tie students into the pictures, the portraits that you do, especially. And so in this case, we had students running behind an indoor track. And it's a completely different feeling, different setting than the cover image. And that is great to have, because then you can just get more choices for the photo editor, the art director, and just more stuff to be able to put in the magazine when you're down to, sometimes just trying to fill space with good photography. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Photo essays are fun to do. In this case, you can bring in architectural elements from a school, kind of objects that are lying on teachers' desks and that kind of thing, details. And I guess the strategy here is to tell a short story with images that the reader relates to, and they can connect with the school that way.
Yeah.
I always tend to be a sucker for real moments and natural expressions and that kind of thing. It's so nice when it happens and you can grab it with your camera. And in this case, this photographer did a really good job of that. And Liza and I both.
Yeah, love this. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very natural, it's a portrait of donors, major donors for this new field, but it's not your normal donor photo. These people look very comfortable, and what I like about it is that there are students in the background. The field was built for the students, so it's more meaningful if they're included in the portrait as well. We just love this cover and spread, so we hope you guys do too. So photography for digital is bigger and more important than ever. The newer websites allow for huge images, and social media headers are large as well. While they rotate easily, you still want to see photographs to grab the visitor's eye and draw them in, and that's the strategy here.
And so here's where end use is really important, meaning that knowing the end use, so you have a photographer out there for the day shooting, if you know that you're going to need a good shot for your website as maybe a main photo to a section or one of the banner images on the website, it's good to know, okay, well, here we need to shoot a really strong letterbox horizontal to be able to do that, and kind of planning it that way, planning it around where you're going to be putting the menus. And so this, when I shot this, we knew where all that was going, and it's really helpful.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know you're going to be using a shot for the website. This is the same shot that you saw earlier for Montclair Kimberly Academy, or the same series, I'm not sure if it's the exact same shot, that was in the search piece, right? Here it is again doing double duty on the home page, but it wasn't shot specifically for this, but yet it's been cropped and fits really well to work for the homepage of the website. Sometimes you don't want to use the same photos for the same audience, but use sparingly. Sometimes it conveys continuity. So this is great. Here are more letterbox shots for rotating homepage images for Newtown Friends School website. Each photo illustrates the Quaker testimonies called Spices, and there are 3 shown here. A child reading a book instead of a tablet for simplicity, a child working alone in a bath of sunlight for peace, and 5 students in a group enjoying each other's company for community. Photographs tell stories and draw people in.
So Instagram's a great way to get students and faculty and alum all to participate in communication for the school. And this is from the Think Global School. And in this case, the strategy should be that the images project your school's unique brand. And other than that, there's a lot of variation in style on Instagram as well. So it's kind of an opportunity to, to maybe not feel the pressure to have every picture be perfect, knowing it's going to be coming from, students and faculty. But it's just, kind of informal.
Yeah, one big thread of your brand. Yep. Your Twitter header is almost like a letterbox shot for the website. Here, Kingsley Montessori has cropped a beautiful photo of the student inspecting a flower. It's very pretty, and the lighting's very pretty. Cropping is a great way to get a photo to fit the space, as we mentioned earlier, or to focus on a small section of a photograph. He, I can't tell if it's a boy or a girl, is thoroughly engrossed in what they're doing, and it's a great message for the school. I'm not sure. Your Facebook cover is another end use where horizontal is important. This one for Tilton conveys a strong sense of community. Schools are having a great time.
So we're going to discuss events and sports as we near the end of part 1 of our webinar series. And let's talk about events. So commencement is always important to capture. And one good thing is photos can get plugged into a lot of end users, the end users that we've been talking about for this webinar. So they can be in your alumni magazines, they can be in VIEWBOOK website. There's annual giving appeal. There's all sorts of great end uses for them. And schools normally hire me to do kind of the documentary photographs of the event and kind of looking for moments and that kind of thing. And then they'll have another photographer shoot the actual receiving of the diploma photos. Usually it's an agency that just handles that type of event.
Yeah, so these are the end use here is documenting the event, but also you'll use them for other purposes and mostly evoking emotion because it's a very emotional day.
Right. So events are, another example of an event are, in this case, it's an off-campus alumni event. And it's, one nice use is to be able to promote the same event the following year. So you can use pictures from the current year to do that. And so that's what we did in this case. And then, it's nice to get some pictures of alumni and be able to have the alumni and development office at a school be able to send those pictures to the alumni. And, these two alum probably haven't seen each other in a couple of years, mm-hmm. and it's a nice moment between them.
Yeah. Yeah. So a triple shot strategy there.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
And sports. Yay.
Yeah, sports are great. So I love to shoot sports. Just personal thing I really, really enjoy. And usually I get about an hour or 2 hours after the school day to be able to do that when I'm out doing a view book. In this case, the 3 photographs we chose, one, is showing emotion and this cheer before the game, excitement in the tug of war on the upper right, and then you have friendship, which is this celebratory kind of embrace after a goal. And all these pictures can communicate so much, and I think really, sort of pull at the heartstrings. And that's what I enjoy about it. They're not necessarily documenting that peak moment of the most important moment in a game, the winning goal, that kind of thing. It's the other stuff that's happening that I think can tell a little bit more.
Yeah.
And one last thing to mention about sports is a lot of times there's not the opportunity to get games, when I'm out spending a day at a school. And I never keep that from being a reason not to do the photos. When you're shooting a practice, you can often get unique angles that you can't get during an actual event. You can have someone do, in this case, I had those boys running, do it several times. So we can get kind of
back and forth.
Yeah, to get the placement right. So it's something to keep in mind.
Beautiful. So that's the end of the first part of our series. Michael and I want to thank you for being here. It's maximizing your experience with a professional photographer. Please join us for part 2, selecting the right photographer and writing the RFP. And we thank you for being here.